we do have John from Canada online. Now, are you up to date on the recent, did you watch the last Truth Wanted,
No.
John? Because John from Canada, I would have my hesitations in bringing John from Canada, but John from Canada is called into the show, maybe more than any other caller.
Oh, I've spoken to John plenty
You've
of times.
spoken to John. We've all seen John. As of last week, John says they may not be a Christian anymore. And so we're in a new arc right now. John from Canada, you're live on Truth Wanted. Is this still true? Are you struggling with your belief in Christianity?
Yes, that is still true.
Okay. Have you made any movements there? Any new labels for yourself? Just curious. It's okay if you say no.
Maybe the best word to describe it right now would be agnostic.
Okay. All right. That is a development. I will say that. Wow. And John, you want to call in today about the dangers of evangelicalism. So tell me about your thoughts on that, because you have evangelized on this show. So kind of curious that you'd hold that position.
Well, before I get started, I would just like to say I like the glasses. Do you wear contacts usually?
I'm wearing contacts right now. Okay, listen, I'm embarrassed. I got these are the Meta glasses. They were on sale and I wanted to try them. I think I'm going to return them. They were too expensive. I regret buying them, honestly. It was kind of an impulse thing. I just want to see, because I like cool wearable stuff, and I want to be able to have like a screen on my glasses. But anyway, yeah, no, I just want to see what they look on camera and stuff. And I'm probably going to return them, John. But no, I usually wear contacts. Thanks for asking.
Okay. So, what I want to say about evangelicalism is that they're selling something that they know that they cannot honestly produce. For instance, if I have a product, let's say I have a blender, I say it's the best blender that's ever been built, invented, and it can do half the work and half the time, more work and half the time. I tell people, buy it, or invest in my company, but I have nothing set up. There's not even a blender, but people give me my money. We will call that fraud. But in evangelism, these men go on stage and they say, okay, believe in God through me, pay me your money, and in some cases, obey me, and I will promise you eternal life. Now, whether it's eternal life or not, we cannot know for sure. But what these men are doing, they're promising something that they themselves know that they're not sure of, and B, something that they cannot possibly guarantee. Do you agree?
Pretty much. I mean, yeah. Again, that's just weird hearing it from you, John, because you have, again, need to emphasize this, have evangelized to us. So are you saying that you were committing acts of fraud with us?
Well, I genuinely believed.
And that's where the issue stands, because when it comes to evangelicals, they genuinely believe that they're doing the right thing. So it is like a really tough line because in their minds this is the absolute truth, and they need to let everybody know. You've been there, John. You know what it was like. I used to believe in an afterlife and dead people visiting, and I would hear voices and need to pass on messages. I genuinely believe that was a thing. And so yes, it may seem like it's fraud, but actually when you genuinely believe something, it doesn't come across from that person as fraud. So we're here, what I like doing is just saying, well, now let's look into that and see why that might not necessarily be a position to stand in, and we can take a look back. So yes, I see what you're saying. It could come across as fraud, but you're right. These folks, they genuinely believe. You genuinely believe that this was the truth, and so you felt like you were doing a service. But now where we were constantly saying, "Well, John, why do you believe that? Tell us, how we could demonstrate that to be the truth." So,
well, I'm not blaming the people who generally believe, because if you believe something, it's not lying if you promote it. My concern is when you have people who know the truth, but they're promoting it anyways. For instance, I heard you earlier this show. You were talking about that guy Ken Ham. He definitely knows that he's bogus.
I don't know. Does he or does it? I don't know if there's any way we could prove that.
Right. And so here's the problem, John. It actually doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter whether Ken Ham's beliefs are genuine or not, because he's still actively causing, harm by telling lies, right? By what we would call lies. So this is kind of the problem. And this is why we don't stop it just saying, well, yeah, there's the fraudsters, but everybody else is still okay. It's like, no, a lie is still a lie, right? If it's still not true, it's still not true. And yeah, it gets more ethically complicated when we talk about folks with genuine belief, but it's not up to us to be able to tell someone whether their belief is genuine or not. We can only talk about the positions and the merits that they hold, right? So yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
I see. Anyway, well, what I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't promote something that you don't know 100% is true, or at the very least 99%. I won't say 100%. We'll say 99%.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know anything 100%. We don't know anything 100%.
Yeah. I mean, I think I reasonably agree with you. But again, people are 100% confident in something as well and are still wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know if confidence level is necessarily the best metric either.
Well, you have to have, before you believe something, or before you give your allegiance to something, you should have a good idea that it's true. Don't you agree?
I think that's reasonable. Yes. I think so. But the problem is, John, and I imagine this is true for you, is that you and I grew up in a Christian world. We really did, right? We grew up with everybody else around us believing this thing. And then this thing called the internet came along and a bunch of other stuff that maybe showed us other points of view. But if I didn't have access to that, if I didn't have access to people outside of my community giving me other ideas about how the world works, I'd probably still be stuck in where I was at. And I think that's true for a lot of people, right?
So what made you question it?
Well, that is a long story, but it was a lot of things, John. I was a liberal Christian first before I became an atheist, because like many people who deconstruct from Christianity, you kind of do it with one belief at a time. You don't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. You're kind of like, okay, well, maybe evolution's a thing, but evolution can coexist with this, or maybe maybe Paul in the epistles, his stuff, he kind of has some outdated opinions, but the gospel accounts are still true, and what they say in there has so this is what happened with my Christianity. Is it kind of just happened in layers. It wasn't necessarily everything all at once tumbling because of one single crack, right? And I think that's true for a lot of people. Some people, they do have a watershed moment, but beliefs are a little bit more complicated than that most of the time.
But you don't subscribe to the idea of theistic evolution?
No, and I'll tell you why if you're curious about that. Because I actually think that this is the one thing that Ken Ham and I probably agree on, and it's that you really can't make sense of the Bible and the narratives that it provides by understanding things from an evolutionary point of view. A lot of Christians say, well, really, the Old Testament we could say as metaphors, right? We could say as kind of allegorical, but the New Testament doesn't describe these tales in as much allegory as again, if you're just looking at it from a strictly Bible perspective, I'll give you the example for this. The book of Matthew talks about the genealogy of Jesus, okay? And there's another gospel account that talks about the genealogy. If you follow that literal genealogy, because a genealogy is an account of people's succession through family, it's talking about these people all the way up to Adam, by the way, I believe, as real people. It doesn't make sense to have an allegorical genealogy unless you're trying to make some sort of greater narrative or greater account. But then other parts of the Bible kind of fall apart. Like, I talked about demon possessions. Jesus wasn't the only guy in the Bible that did exorcisms. The disciples also were described to be doing this stuff as well, and were able to provide other kinds of miracles. And that seemed to change people's beliefs when these miracles occurred. So it really does kind of mess with a lot of the Bible when you talk about evolution. And Ken Ham is absolutely right about that. I actually don't think you can be a Christian and still have all these things make sense, but that's of course my opinion, and I'm talking a lot here. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add, John.
No, you've said it all perfectly. I think you nailed it.
What do you think, John, from Canada?
But I went to Catholic school, and I remember, it's weird. They taught us the Bible. On one hand, they taught us that they read us the story of Genesis, but on the other hand, they told us about evolution. I didn't know what makes sense of that.
Yeah.
It's very strangely refreshing to hear you talking about everything like this,
Right.
John. But I just want to make sure that you're okay, because as you're stepping away from all of this, there's what is known as the angry atheist phase, where, and I'm not saying you're an atheist or that you're angry, but as you start processing all of this stuff and the things that you've been told as truths are now sort of slowly falling apart for you, I want to find a way for you to reach out to folks so that you've got someone to talk to this whole time, because processing everything that you've been taught as this is what it is, you will need some kind of outlet and someone to talk to process everything, because it can get messy.
Absolutely.
So there are projects out there that you can call into or email into just for someone to speak to, and I just want to make sure that you're okay as you're processing all this, please.
That's our biggest concern, John, is we want you to be okay. No matter if you end up a Christian next week, that's your life. You do whatever. I want you to be okay with where you are.
I really appreciate that, Dan and John.
What we're here for.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you've been having some pretty deep thoughts recently about where you're at.
I have. Yes, I have.
Well, good for you.
Yes.
Good for you. It's a tough road.
I would write some stuff down. You know that we're here every week. We love having conversations with you. Just think of one thing that has hit you hard that week that you'd like to process, and we will be here to discuss it with you and help you, discuss it. And you may have it may flip you back to some kind of belief, and we're happy to talk about that as well. But just know that we're here to discuss this all with you.
Yeah, write down your questions. I'm happy to answer my perspective on that. Go ahead.
Oh, you mean write down my questions? I think I'll do that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I only say that with the caveat that neither John nor myself nor any host is a therapist, licensed or otherwise. Okay, we give our perspectives. We can't give you life advice. We're not going to do that, right? But we can provide you with resources if you need that. And also, if you go to the Atheist Community website, we actually just recently updated our resources page with more stuff for people to check out. So I do recommend you go in there if you need that kind of help. But you want our perspectives on what we think about this passage in the Bible or Southern Christianity, we can do that all week, Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I'll take down the environment and I'll let you go. But before I go, I'll just ask you one question.
Okay, shoot.
Yeah. Whatever happened to what's her name? Sin Sage.
Who?
Sin Sage.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Great.
Easy answer.
Good talking to you, John. Have a great one. Maybe see you next week.
Yeah.
So there you go, John the skeptic.
That is it. What a change in demeanor. What a pleasant conversation. And actually, I've been lucky. Whenever I've had a talk with John on air, it's always been very respectful. And I know that there are times that it goes the other way, but that's so strange to me. But wow, just wow. that he's like opened up to having some questions asked.